Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mom Mode. Today, we have Laura with our Forever Smiles podcast on the podcast. And I'm just really excited because we are going to talk all things cleft lip and palate. And this is something that I've wanted to learn about, and I'm just so excited. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Laura.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled.
Yeah. And Laura, I love this because we both have podcasts. So we were just chatting beforehand about all things podcasts in the podcast world. And I actually haven't had anybody that I've like chatted with that's had their own podcast. So it's been exciting. But for those who don't know you, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I love podcasting. So I do have my own podcast. I am Laura Arroyo and I host the Our Forever Smiles podcast. It is a podcast that is dedicated to supporting mothers of children that are born with a cleft lip or palate. Um, I in my professional career, I was a learning and development professional on the HR side. And as we'll talk about throughout the episode, I imagine Cleft was not on my bingo card. It's not something that I was expecting or really um, kind of even knew much about. So I do have a lot of grace and empathy for people that are learning. I am still learning to this day. I learn from moms of all walks of life, just hosting my own podcast. And so I am just kind of here to spread awareness, to share my experience in hopes of learning and also being able to teach as well.
I love that. And yeah, I'm just, I feel like as a mom that, I'm continuing to grow my family. It's something that you just never know if you're going to experience. And so for me, one thing that I love about podcasting, and I'm sure you might as well, is you just get to learn. You learn so much and you learn from people who are going through the experience. And so I love that. And so with your daughter, obviously, like you said, you knew nothing about cleft lip, palate. Um, and, you know, how did your story start?
Yeah, so I was a first-time mom. I got pregnant, I guess, later on in life, but I think more women are having children later. I'm in my 30s,
Yep, me
and
too.
um so I kind of wanted to be have a more stable life. I didn't even really know if I was gonna have a child. Met a wonderful man and decided to have a baby together, and had a completely healthy and normal pregnancy. Had my usual scans. I know I was feeling like when I was pregnant, I was kind of feeling like, oh, I wish I guess I didn't realize that people didn't see their babies as much if there was nothing, like, quote, unquote, "wrong" with them. So,
Yep.
I got, like, that initial, like, "Okay, you're pregnant" scan, and then I got the second scan, the anatomy scan, and, like, that was it. So I was, like, so jealous of, like, the moms that, like, have all these scans, right? But most of the time when you're having a lot of scans done, it probably there's an issue unless you're just doing them voluntarily or, like, paying out of pocket or something like that.
Yep.
But I had a completely normal pregnancy. I actually did have the 3D or I think it's, like, the 4D scan or whatever, which I thought was really cool. So I did have all those scans. The only thing that I note for people is that I really didn't enjoy being pregnant, but outside of that is I had a normal pregnancy, thank God, and nothing, um there was no issues. And then I, essentially gave birth to my daughter. I actually went through a midwifery. I was trying to do, like, a no medication type thing. I tell people on my podcast all the time, I watched all the videos. I did all the things to prepare myself for childbirth. I just wanna tell you now, I don't like to put fear into anyone, but, like, there is nothing that can prepare you for childbirth.
Did you end up doing it naturally?
Oh my goodness. I got
Like,
up.
I know I don't want to sway away from your story, but I'm like, wait, well, how
No.
did this end up?
Yeah,
Like,
so
how did you give birth?
I swear, like, so for so first off, I don't know if it's always been this way. and maybe it has, but I feel like after COVID, they kind of realized that moms can, like, wait it out at home a little bit longer, like, we don't need to bring you to the
Mhm.
hospital.
Yep.
So, they weren't admitting me because they every time they would check me, it would be, I wouldn't be dilated as much as they would have liked. So, I stayed around, like, 4 centimeters for a few days, and oh my goodness, like, I was having contractions, they were so painful, I wasn't sleeping. Anyway, when I
And I feel
finally
like there's,
actually
like, the
got there.
anticipation too. Like, you're like, "Okay, wait, when is this gonna happen?"
Yes.
Like, because some women, it's like they just stop progressing, and then some women are, like, 0, or 4 to, like, "Okay, you're ready in, like, an hour." Like, it can
Yeah.
happen.
And then when
So,
you've never been through childbirth, you don't really know, like, I
I had a
remember
C-section.
calling.
So, I
Yeah.
literally, like, when you're talking about this, I'm like, I have no idea. I had no contractions.
No?
They tried inducing me. I didn't even get to A1,
Oh,
and they gave me
wow.
tons of Pitocin, Cervidil, Cytotec, nothing. And it could have been because I was a little early because I had some health stuff. But
Mhm.
so, like, when I hear women talk about it, I'm like, it's weird because 'cause I'm a mom. I had my daughter, but I didn't have your typical birthing experience.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what a contraction feels like, which
Yeah.
is
But
wild.
but, like, even with that, right, like, I think about that as well. It's like that also wasn't what you expected. Like, I'm
Oh, for
sure
sure.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you, like, watched all the birthing videos and you're, like, bouncing on a ball maybe, and you're, like, doing all the things, and you're like,
Yep.
"I'm gonna experience contractions," and, like, that is completely not what happened. Like, the way that
No.
I guess this, like, movie you make in your head is, like,
Yep.
not standard all the time, I guess.
Well, and that's why
Um
everyone's like, it's so unique to everyone. Like, literally everyone's
Yeah.
story is different. So
Yes.
you were at a 4. Sorry,
I
I'm getting you off tangent, but, like, you were at a 4 for a few days.
Yeah, so, like, maybe, like, a couple, so 2 days,
Yeah.
and then finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I was just like, "This is cruel, and you have to admit me now." And my midwife is like, "Laura," they're so calm, and she's like, "Laura, just come in. Just come in, and we'll check you out again." And by the time I got there, it was like 8 centimeters.
Oh my gosh.
But at this point, I was so exhausted and so in so much pain that I didn't even let her get the word epidural out before I'm like, "Yes!" And they're like, "But you have to stay still for it," and they're, like, saying all the things, and I'm like, "I don't care, like, I promise I'll stay still." Like,
Yep.
like, I was in so much pain. Anyway, part of me now, of course, in hindsight, 3 years later, is like, I should have held on for the other 2 centimeters just to do it,
I
and
don't
then I tell
know.
people that, and they're like, you don't get any there's no gold stars, like, you had your
Yep.
baby, she's healthy, she's, all the
And it went
things.
the way that you were supposed to have it. Because if
Exactly.
you can always look back and say, like, "I could've, I should've," but at the end of the day, in that moment, that was a real emotion of, "Give me the epidural
Yeah.
now," probably. I've heard that many times.
Yes, it was yeah, it was it was bad, like, when I think about it, I just couldn't, I had no more in me. And so, like, I gave birth to her, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, she came out, like, we're all good. I gave birth to her vaginally, and, they're doing her, like, newborn screening stuff, and, and then I hear, like, some, like, kinda it's not commotion, it's just a lot of, like, chatter, and I told my husband, I'm like, "Can you, like, put an ear to what they're talking about over there? Because they're still working on me, like, they still have to deliver
Yeah, the
placenta and
placenta
do all the
and all
things,
that.
and, and then they're like, "It's fine, mom, like, it's okay," and then I remember, I will never forget this moment because it was such a weird thing to experience because the nurse that they asked to deliver this information to me, she had like she had like a communication barrier. Like she had a stutter. It was like a stutter. It was a really like it was a speech impediment or something.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself the whole time because she's talking to me, I'm like, "Why would they ask you to do this?" Like, I there's something about it that felt like cruel almost, like,
Yeah.
she was, like, giving me some.
And if you have that, you probably are she's probably nervous to give you this
Yeah,
too,
like,
so
I
that might have
feel
been making it worse.
yeah, that's it, like, and then I found myself being more. I found myself and maybe it may have been a good thing because it made me feel it kinda disarmed me a little bit, if that makes sense, because I
Mhm.
felt like almost having like, feeling sorry for her almost. It was weird. Anyway, that and I share that, it's, like, not really relevant to the story. It was just, like, a weird thing that happened or just, like, a something that I remember. She handed me a piece of paper, and she said the piece of paper basically said, "Hey, I have like, a communication, barrier. Just, like, basically be patient with me." So she's telling me
Hmm.
the information, and I'm like, "Is it" I told her, I asked her, I said, "Would it be helpful for me to finish your sentences? Because sometimes, like, I don't know, like, when someone has, like, I guess maybe like a disability or something, it's the appropriate thing to do is to ask how they want to be handled or what's okay, you know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
I asked her, I said, "Would you feel comfortable if I finished your sentences?" And she said, "Yes, that would be helpful." And so part of it I understood, and then but I didn't have like a really clear answer. Anyway, long way to say, she basically said, "Your daughter has a hole in the roof of her mouth." And I'm like, okay, that's like
So
odd.
have you seen your daughter at this point? Like, they handed her to you or not yet?
I don't think that they handed her to me yet. I think it was
Okay.
like all in the same. Like,
Like
she came, the whole, like, thing happened, us talking about her, and then, like, her telling me this information, and then I think they handed her to me.
mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, so they basically said she has a hole in the roof of her mouth, and then they were like, "It's okay, mom," and then business as usual,
Hmm.
but it's not.
So your daughter
Yeah,
then would hers be considered a cleft palate, not a cleft lip? Because there's a
yeah,
difference.
there is a difference. So the reason why as I mentioned, I had all the scans done, I did all the things, and, like, nothing, came from it is because my daughter was born with a cleft palate. Now, what happens is that children can be born with a cleft lip and palate. They can be born with a cleft lip only, or they can be born with a cleft palate only. Cleft lips are more prevalent in boys, and cleft palates are more prevalent in girls.
Hmm. That's good to know. I wonder why. Has there been any research on why that is? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's extensive research from what they have tried to kind of figure out.
mhm.
There isn't really the why really hasn't been answered. 80% of the cases, like children born with clefts, are random. So not linked to, environmental issues or, environmental, I mean like drinking and drugs
Yeah.
or just like something happening or genetics. So just completely they're not linked to genetics or environmental issues. Completely random. 80% of them.
Wow. Now, what did you feel? And, like, this is the thing, is, like, as for me, I would be like, "Oh my gosh," like, I would automatically go from, like, chill to, like, "What do you mean?" But then
Yeah.
they're saying it's okay. So, like, how did you process that? Were you like, "Okay, no, she's gonna be fine," or were you like, "Okay, I want my daughter, like, what's next?" Like, did you have a million questions?
Yeah, I had a million questions and the issue that a lot of moms I feel like still struggle with even today is that the nurse education isn't quite there yet. So the nurse was telling me, "Hey, it's fine. You can just go ahead and breastfeed as have like as you intended to do." So I'm sitting there trying to breastfeed her and it's just not working. Like it's not like feeling right. the other thing that happened is that they never referred to it as a cleft palate in labor and delivery. They just said that she had a hole in the roof of her mouth.
Which a
And
cleft palate
so
would have been more relaxing for me to hear, not a hole. I mean, the way that that's being expressed is like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, oh my god, yeah,
Yeah. Sh
wow.
so
There
she
should be sorry, my initial thought is like, okay, wait, if this is this common, almost every hospital should have somebody that's educated then on this. So that way that person can come in, and be able to explain there's no need to worry. This can be fixed.
Mhm.
Your daughter's going to be okay, and give you peace of mind
Yeah.
because I feel like this, you can spiral.
Yeah, for sure. I've had so many, I've had, different I've spoken to so many different medical professionals, and I think it varies, like, in any industry, right? Like, I've had some nurses tell me, like, "I don't know how this happened, Laura." Like, this was, like, a very, like, important, like, prominent subject that we talked about in nursing school, whereas other people are like, "We just breezed right on by it." Like, it wasn't
Mhm.
something that we were really, like, strongly educated on. And to me, I actually felt like the hole in the mouth kind of, like, minimized it a little bit to me, like, it
Okay.
almost felt like, "Okay, like, she can, like, have a noodle go from her mouth to her nose," like, it's like we were, like, kind of trying to, like, be lighthearted about it, like, I remember my brother specifically said that. He's like, "Okay, like, we're gonna be fine, like, she's gonna be able to do tricks, like, America's got
Mhm.
America's got talent," you know? And so it was like that, but I was like me, myself, I was, like, consumed with worry because, one of the things that was happening is she wasn't eating. Like, she wasn't eating and, we weren't being seen by anyone, like a specialist or anything, but they did tell us, like, "Oh, someone will come see you, to talk about this," but it wasn't, like, until I believe the next day.
Hmm. So with your daughter, I feel like sometimes I hear that like babies have like surgery right away. And I don't know if that's when it's a cleft lip, cleft palate, if there's a severity to them. So when they saw your daughter, like, did your daughter have to have any care, or
Yeah,
surgeries or anything like that? Or what did they do to help her? And then also like start that feeding journey to where she was then successfully eating and it kind of put those worries aside.
yeah. So, eventually what happened is Giselle, she landed in the NICU because she wasn't eating, and, what a lot of people don't realize as well is that babies that are born with cleft lip and, palate, particularly the palate, if you are born with a cleft palate, you don't have suction, so you can't form any suction, so
Mhm.
are, um you have to be fed with a specialty bottle, and, um, if you're not able to kind of grasp your feeding, a lot of times they will introduce a feeding tube. Now, thankfully, what happened with Giselle is that she became jaundiced, and, because she wasn't eating, she wasn't able to pass it in the way that moms typically are able to get their children to pass jaundice. It's through, like, urine and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But, she's not eating, so she's not peeing enough. And so she was admitted into the NICU. I will say, and I don't know if you've had any NICU moms on the podcast before, but literally the hardest thing that I've ever experienced is like, because I was discharged after that, and it's like, "No, mom, you go home, she stays." And I I had never. It was almost like I like the feeling of like a breakup. Like my heart just felt so broken, like, leaving her there, like, I missed her in a way that was like, I don't know, I can't describe it. I always say, like, I yearned for her so much, and, um And I didn't even really know her, like, it's like a weird
Well,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like too, like you were carrying her for 9 months.
Yeah.
You guys were attached to each other, and then you see all these normal experiences of moms leaving the hospital with their baby and bringing them home, and it wasn't that way. And I haven't personally experienced that, but I've definitely had friends and I've had a couple
Yeah.
moms who have. And some moms are like, they had toddlers at home. So they're like, in a way, I knew, my child was going to be okay. And it kind of made it easier, the transition. And then
Yeah.
I've had other moms like, I got that experience ripped away from me.
Mm.
My heart was broken. So I feel like there's just so many different, everyone's going to carry it differently.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but it's also so like normalized, like, and those NICU nurses are incredible, they save babies' lives.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just so like, okay, you go home and she stays. It's
Yeah.
like I guess there's not a place for them to really show empathy, but then you're kind of left with like, how do I handle this? You
Yeah.
know?
And they are supportive, they give you all they tell you all the things like, "You can come whenever you want, you can call us whenever you want." But, nothing is gonna, like, stop that hurt that you feel from having to, like, leave your child. I Giselle had to work on her feeding. She wasn't getting the feeding down. She tried there's a Dr. Brown specialty bottle, which is the most popular bottle. So she tried that for a while in the NICU, and so that's why she eventually did get her feeding down, so she was able to come home. And then after that, what typically happens is that you are seen by a craniofacial team. And so they will essentially do everything. Like they will care for it's not just one doctor, it's an entire team. So you'll have an ENT, a dentist, orthodontist, the surgeon, speech. You'll have they even have like a psychiatrist on the team to kind of support families that are going through this. And so what we did after she was able to come home is we were actually scheduled to see the feeding team because they wanted to continue to monitor her feeding, of course. And eventually we had to switch bottles because the Dr. Brown's wasn't really working for her. So we moved to a pigeon bottle. Um, and there's 3 types of bottles for children born with cleft lip or palate. There's a Dr. Brown's bottle, there's a pigeon bottle, and then there's a Medela. They make no, no, no. Is it Medela? Haberman. I don't know if it's the same company. Haberman. Um, and then so once she was able to get her feeding down and her weight together, they were able to give me a surgery date. So they typically don't do repairs for cleft palates until they're about 10 months. And
Okay.
so, you have to kind of wait. Cleft lip surgeries are done much sooner. They're done, like, within, I think, 3 to 5 months, or I've seen earlier than that, but tho that's kind of controversial, but yeah.
Now, how long was she in the NICU?
She was there for 5 days, so it
Okay.
wasn't that long, but I
Not
always
too
tell
bad, but it
people.
probably felt like a year.
Yeah, like, I always tell people, like, like, when people tell me, like, their kid was there for 2 months, like, I was, like, dying after 5 days, like, I have so much empathy for that, like, I it's yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple moms that I think one was like 256 days and
Mm.
another was like 300 something. Um,
Yeah.
but what's amazing is like as difficult as that is, and like you have to look at the good, like listening to your story, I'm like, I don't know if this is in my future, but if it is, like here you are talking about it. How old is Giselle now?
She's 3.
She's 3. Oh,
Mhm.
my daughter's almost 2.5. So not far behind.
Yeah.
So when she had to go, so you scheduled that surgery. I mean, and now I'm sure she's great. You might even,
Mhm.
she probably doesn't have anything. I mean, well, we'll talk about it. So she was scheduled for her surgery.
Mhm.
And how did you feel about that? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Both? Um,
Yeah. I think in the beginning, every Cleft mom is like, I'm really excited to get my surgery date. I'm so excited to kind of have this behind us because it means a quote unquote normal life, right? Like
Yeah.
like one of the things that would happen to Giselle is she would drink her milk. In the beginning, what she was doing was she was sneezing everything out. And like you're not supposed to have milk or food or things coming out of your nose. So that can be kind of like irritating. So
Mhm.
everything was coming out of her nose. She was sneezing it out. She wasn't able to kind of redirect milk down to her throat, but she did pick it up quickly. Within a few days, she was able to kind of learn. But it's like occasionally she would have like milk running down her nose, and it was like, okay, like you get your surgery date, and you're like, all right, like this is my ticket to like a step to feeling better. But then, like, the day comes and you're like, "Oh, wait, it's, like, surgery." And it's not
Mhm.
like, "Oh, let's pull a tooth," which, of course, it can be hard. That may be hard for people too, but it's like, "Oh, this surgery is, like, from 2 to 4 hours, and they're gonna be, like, under anesthesia, and you're basically, like, handing your baby off to strangers to basically trust that they'll come back and be better."
Yeah. Um, so with her surgery, I'm guessing they just were they able to what do they place near the hole? Do they create something from, like, her own tissue or, what does that look like to repair the cleft palate?
Yeah, so I had this question too, whenever they whenever they first saw her, because 'cause I'm like, "What do you do? Like, do you graft her cheeks and, like, connect it
Yeah.
together? Like, what does that look like?" Basically everything is there. They just, like, bring it together.
Wow.
So, yeah, they literally, like her cleft was pretty wide, but they just, like, literally doop, and
Got it out,
they
and then it, like, heals and grows together then, I'm guessing.
Mhm, they there's different types of stitches, and I won't get into or techniques rather.
Yeah.
I won't
It
get
probably
into
just
those.
depends on the cleft, like,
Yeah.
what the palate looks like and everything like that.
Yeah, so they, of course, they'll look at your anatomy and see what type of, like, stitch they'll do, and then, um yeah, and then they'll put it together, and on, you're off the bottle at 10. You have to be off the bottle. Most surgeons say they want the babies off the bottle by 10 months or whenever the surgery is, so that's, like, one of the things that a lot of moms panic about, and, so, yeah, nothing in the mouth for at least 2 to 6 weeks. Really, those first 2 weeks are critical, and it just closes. On occasion, which is not common, but if you are a cleft mom and you're listening to this, this is something to ask your surgeon. Is there what's called a fistula rate? And a fistula is just means like a hole. Sometimes they can get like a hole where the palate doesn't fully heal, and you would have to have a second surgery to repair it. Or some of them, if they're really small, will close on their own.
Okay. Now how does the baby eat or your child if that you can't have anything in the mouth?
No bottles, no. So
No bottles.
you have to basically teach your baby how to drink from a free flow cup.
Okay. 'Cause they don't want the sucking mechanism, is that
Yeah,
what it
no
is?
sucking,
Okay.
no biting, no nothing in, so you just kind of have to, or a syringe. So, a lot of moms panic about this, about the free flow, because they're like
They're
surgery
still
started at 3
little.
months. They're still so
Yeah.
small, like, very attached to their bottles, and Giselle's case, she was a thumb sucker, like, she puts her thumb in her mouth, so I was really concerned about that because it's like, "Oh, get your baby off the bottle," and I'm like, "I can't take her thumb away from her."
Yeah.
So, it was
Seriously.
yeah, it was really hard to do that, but a lot of moms get really, They are concerned about getting their kids off the bottle, but most kids don't want after the surgery, they don't want anything in their mouths anyway. Like, um, it's not a thing most of the time because they a lot of times they don't even wanna eat. Like, they are refusing to eat sometimes after
Well, because 'cause they're
surgery.
probably in pain too, and they feel
Yes.
the difference, and yeah,
Mhm.
so they probably just don't wanna be messed with.
Yeah. So most moms
But
end up syringe feeding.
okay. I feel
Mm,
like, yeah, that would make sense.
and
Um, so how long did you say it takes to normally heal? Couple weeks?
yeah, so you'll have a post-op appointment, 2 weeks after surgery where they will look at it to make sure everything looks good, you don't have, like, an infection or anything, and then typically 6 weeks is when they will approve them to basically go back to their normal diet. So, a lot of times moms are, like, exploring solids at that point, like purees or even, like, soft foods, so
Yep.
you can kind of go back to your normal, um, like, food routine. But surprisingly, most babies do fine, like, they're back to their normal selves within a week, like, they're good within a week. The thing that I find that a lot of parents do struggle with is the baby will continue to wake up during the night, like, they wanna be held to sleep, and that's a response to the anesthesia.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
and just probably, like, fear. Like, you don't know what they're
Mhm.
feeling, or just, like, unsure of how they're feeling, so they want their mom or their dad. I feel like that's a
Mhm.
very natural response from kids when they have, anything, like when they're sick or when they have an accident, like that's a
Yeah.
natural. Wow. So now with this, so Giselle just had to have one surgery, or did she have to have more?
Yeah, thankfully, Giselle has only had 1 surgery. She had her palate repair at 10 months. She didn't have any issues. Thankfully, nothing else has come out of her nose. There is one, thing that they're monitoring. So children born with cleft lip and palate, tend to, they usually get tubes in their ears because of fluid buildup. It can cause, not only the feeding issues that we've discussed, but also, like, hearing issues, and, of course, if your hearing is not, well, it can impact your speech. Also, your palate is connected to the back of your they're kinda, like, connected to your adenoids in the back. There's a flap. It's a flap that kind of, like, seals for us to create different sounds. So, you can repair a palate, but let's say as she grows, it doesn't completely, like, seal.
Mhm.
So, what they're noticing for Giselle and at her last, cleft team appointment, those appointments are usually done annually, is that she still has some air coming out of her nose for some sounds. So when you have,
Okay.
like, an M sound or an N sound, I believe you shouldn't have air coming out of your nose, I think, but they do, like, this mirror test where they hold it up under her nose to see if there's any, like, fog or whatever coming out. And so after they did that test on her, they noticed that she still has some air coming out. They're gonna continue to monitor it, um, and if it does not improve, she will have to have it's called speech surgery. So that is something that speech therapy cannot correct. So, no matter how much, speech therapy you have, you can't, make it connect. So, I believe it's like pharyngeal flap deficiency is what it's called. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that that is not the case, that she won't have to have another surgery, but that is something that she could potentially have to have.
Well, obviously, I hope that she doesn't need to go through that. I'm sure, like, that weighs on you as a mom,
Yeah.
like just wondering and
Yeah.
constantly waiting for those follow ups. Um, has starting the podcast helped alleviate some of that worry by talking to other people who have had cleft lip or palate, or other parents who their children have experienced that? Do you think that like gives you just like a safe space and like peace of mind hearing other stories?
Yeah. I don't really worry about it too much. So we do have an annual appointment, and like the good thing about it, Giselle's case, I think, is like it's at once a year. So like I have the benefit or the luxury of forgetting, like versus people that have to go all the time or that have,
Yeah.
varying issues, right? Like I will never take that for granted. But what I do find is that the podcast allows me to kind of like give back to this community. I didn't tell anyone about Giselle's palette until I announced it like the day before her surgery because I really wanted to like fully understand what it was before I like told other people that she had it.
Yeah.
Um and then like I've been like an avid podcast listener. Like I've always wanted to like start a podcast and I've always like listened to them and thought it was like really cool. But you and I both know that podcasting is really hard. And
It
you have
is.
to do it on something that you care about and something that you want to talk about a lot. And I found myself like when I was experiencing this, I thought I was, like, 1 in a million that people didn't I felt like this was happening to me and one other person in Venezuela. I felt like it was like that, it was such a far-fetched thing to me, and I hated that I didn't have, like, a sense of community, that I
Mhm.
didn't have anyone that I could relate to. When there is, you go on these Facebook groups and it's like autism, they have, like, a big community of people and, we know, like, autism moms and ADHD moms and, there is this sense of community, but in reality, I just didn't know about them. There's, like, Cleft mom groups that have 20,000 and, people in
Wow.
them, and so it is I wanted to start a podcast because I love podcasting,
Mhm.
as a, form of, like, media, and then also, because it was something that I really wanted to talk about, and I know that other moms wanted to talk about, and it's like, why not create this space where we can share our stories together and, not feel like that awkward kind of like the awkward dance that I had to do with the lady that was delivering that bad news
The
to me,
news.
we don't have to, we don't feel sorry for each other, we, understand each other,
Yeah.
we, open that space for one another. The one thing that I didn't expect, and maybe you can tell me if this happens to you too, is I I didn't realize that, listening to people's stories over and over and over again was going to, impact me emotionally and mentally, because the way that I record is okay, I'll record, 3 episodes in 1 week. I do, a lot of bulk recordings because, your story isn't gonna it's not like pop culture, right? Like, your story isn't gonna change from 1 week to the next,
Mhm.
and, I don't have to keep up with the latest, it's the same all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but consuming that much, people's stories, over and over, and different stories and, very traumatic and, really, crying with people and, being in that space was something that I didn't really expect, and almost like reliving my own story, seeing myself in their story, and so that was kind of like the thing that was hard. So it's not necessarily like anticipating like what's gonna happen to Giselle, it's like what's happening to like moms that are experiencing a diagnosis like all over the world type of thing.
Yeah, and then with you, I mean, from the sounds of it, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to downplay what you experienced, but I admire the way that you handle it because I'm the opposite mom, as we joked about kind of. I go from 0 to like, "What the" freaking out, like, "What do you mean?" My daughter has a runny nose, and I'm like, "Oh my god." I'm calling my mom, I'm calling everyone. Like, I hate that I'm that way, but I am. But you just seem so collected, and I, like,
Oh,
really respect that, and I really look up to that. Um, I like that you made it lighthearted. I like that you don't worry about it. You take it for what it is. Other than that, your daughter, I'm guessing is healthy, and she probably doesn't show too much, like, she's probably fine. She's herself. She's, healthy otherwise, and she's healthy regardless,
Yeah.
and so maybe that also helps, but I would agree. It is difficult to hear some of the stories, and you almost have to separate yourself.
Mm,
Um, but
yeah.
I mean, like, I go downstairs and, like, I talk to my husband, or, like, I follow them, their stories too, right? So,
Mhm.
like, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, Lauren, or oh my, like, I have these, and he's like, who are we talking about? And I'm like, remember? And, like, I get emotionally attached.
Yeah.
Obviously, also being a mom that I'm not finished being pregnant, or
Yes.
and, like, creating, my family, it's difficult also because I'll have moms reach out, or I'll come across a story where I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, I mentioned to you, I'm currently 12 weeks pregnant, and I'm like, "Wait,
Yay!
yay, I'm excited." I haven't announced that yet, but, now I'm announcing it, but, I'm like, it's a little scary sometimes, because I'm that person that I will sometimes be like, "Wait, that can happen," but then you're
Yeah.
like, the odds of it happening are like, and now with cleft palate, I didn't realize how common cleft palate and cleft lip was. So
Yeah.
that is very interesting. But some of the others, some stories, you just have to separate yourself. But I totally get it. I've bawled
Yeah.
my eyes out. I cried after, and it is, you have to, like, decompress a little bit. Um, so yeah, like, my mom's even been like, "I don't know if is this really healthy for you to be doing?" Because
Oh,
I'll, like,
yeah.
tell my mom some stories, and I was like, "No, mom, it is." Like, I wanna give, I wanna have this place of community where moms can come, and moms can hear other moms, relate to other moms,
Mm,
them hearing another mom talk about something, like, they might be able to relate to, and then they can heal. You can be like, "Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I'm not the only one," kind of like how
Mhm.
you felt. Like, you're not one in a million, there's a whole community of moms, and you're doing this together. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, I do wanna say you're giving me a lot of credit because I do like, I just internalized my, like, dying I'm dying inside. Like, I
oh, and I verbalize, so that's where we're different.
Yeah,
I'm like, "I'm dying," and then you're, like, inside, so
like
we're the opposite in that way.
Yeah. I'm very much
Oh,
like, "Oh, like, I didn't know that you were going through that," and, like, literally, like, my whole body like, I feel like all moms experience like, my body feels like I'm gonna, like, implode. Like, I feel like, like, when something like, we were talking about, like, the sick thing, like, Giselle also got, like, RSV when she was 3 months, and she was hospitalized, like, so second, like, hospital stay, totally unrelated to having a cleft palate,
yeah,
literally, like, so sick, like, in the PICU, like, in the ICU, and I was like, "What else can happen to me?" I'm like first time mom, I'm like, I was not expecting to be this stressed out. Like, I was, like,
yeah,
filled with so much worry and even still, like, not expecting, like, the mom guilt that comes along with being a mom, just all the things. But as you shared, like, not to minimize my experience because it really was hard. Like, it was really hard, and but Giselle isn't as impacted as as other children, and, again, I don't want to, like, minimize my experience because it was really hard, but it is very different, and I always like to share this as well. It is very different having a child born with a cleft palate, which is, like, quality of life things, versus having a child that's born with a cleft lip, because having a visible difference a facial difference, being a parent of a child that has a facial difference is a completely, totally different ballgame as well. It's palate on sometimes, depending on your case, but it's also this other thing that you kinda have to it's a challenge to kind of know what to do as the child grows,
yeah,
like how to kind of navigate that whole battle within itself. So yeah, so I acknowledge all of those things, like I I feel all of those things and I think about all those things. Now what that's like, maybe it's tearing me apart, but, like, I don't know, like, at least I'm helping someone, so
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I'm definitely yeah, the RSV thing, that's hard. Not to get off topic, but it's
yeah.
experiences like that that are very scary. I mean, going into surgery with Giselle,
Mm.
that was I mean, she has to be, I'm assuming general anesthesia, put
Yeah,
under.
yeah.
That's a scary thing to experience. Sitting in a waiting room while your daughter's under surgery or your son is under surgery, like that's so scary.
Yeah.
But I think it's really amazing, what you're doing, having a podcast, spreading awareness. Um, is there any place that you feel that you like anybody, any moms that are listening that may, you know, be sitting in like your shoes of like they just found out, their child has a cleft lip, palate, both. Um, any like place for resources that you think
Mm,
was like the most helpful for you, or are there resources that you can ask from your hospital? Like what would be your best advice to give to a mom that's, you know, experiencing kind of like I would say like almost like with a blindfold on, right? Cuz like you don't know
mhm.
what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this question. It's actually, like, the last question that I typically ask my guests. It's like, what if like, we know that someone is getting a diagnosis right now. Every 3 minutes, a baby is born with a cleft. And so we know what's happening, like, maybe even right now. And
Yeah.
what would you say to that mom? And there are so many things that I would say I don't like to, like, sugarcoat things in the way I would say that it is gonna be hard. It's gonna be challenging, but there are so many resources out there, that will help support you. Also, the other things that like, there's a medical journey, but there's also, like, an emotional and, like, mental journey that goes alongside with that, and, like, your feelings are valid. It's okay to, like, worry about what your child will look like. It's okay to,
Mhm.
like, worry about, like, whether your family is gonna accept, like, this diagnosis, whether people are going to believe you. It's okay to, like, the guilt that comes with it, like, is it something that I did? Like, all of those feelings are, like, normal, and, um and so, like, you will feel that, and, you don't I wouldn't, like, pile on to your own guilt by feeling guilty for feeling guilty, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there are so many resources. Of course, I'll plug myself. Like, I've spoken to hundreds of cleft moms. I have an Instagram account, Facebook account. It's called Our Forever Smiles. The podcast has we just hit our 100th episode. It is, like, on any topic that you can think about related to cleft moms is there. Obviously, I'm a resource for anyone that wants to reach out to me. But also, like, let's say you're not a podcast person, you don't have an Instagram. The Facebook groups are a literal hub of people venting, um, asking for, like, opinions about things, pictures. I know people are like, they just got their ultrasound. They're like, "Dude, I have my ultrasound. Here it is. Does your ultrasound look like mine? What does your baby look like now?" Like that, all of those things are available on the Facebook groups. I also run a Facebook group if anyone is like interested in that as well. But it's gonna be okay. Like it's the first year is the hardest. What I tell people is just get to the cake. Like, get to that first birthday cake, and you will be okay.
I love that. Get to the cake.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
one other question that I have,
Yeah.
actually, bringing up the ultrasound photos. So with your daughter, they didn't see hers because it was a palate, so it was internal, and
Mhm.
it would be impossible to see that. But like when your baby has a cleft lip, that you can occasionally pick up on a scan, correct?
Not occasionally, like, not like 99% of the time,
Okay.
they will pick up a lip. And that's, like, a percentage that I made in my head. They should pick it up if like, it's very unlikely that they don't. Now, never say never, but if your baby has a cleft lip, we are very advanced as a society and we can, pick it up. The one thing that has happened that I've heard from parents is like, "Oh, they wouldn't move their hands out of their face." Well, if you're a mom that's listening to this right now, if baby won't move their hands out of their face, I would go back and try to get them to do it again. Just so that you have the peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that I mean, there's nothing you can do to change it, but you will at least, I tell people, like, there's nothing that you can do to change it, but, you wanna be ahead of the game. Like, you don't wanna be like me where I'm like, "What bottle?" Like, I was gonna breastfeed, like, you don't wanna
Yeah.
be you wanna have all of your ducks in a row. You wanna know your team is gonna be you wanna, like, vet them. You want all of that stuff, so
Yeah, I'd love to list those bottles. Maybe I can get
yeah.
those names and that way I don't know if you list them on on
Mhm.
anything, but that way we can just let moms know which bottles that were helpful for you and that were advice given because I feel like that's super like that would be like the first thing I'd be like, "Okay, wait, what bottle to use?" you know?
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing I did wanna mention too, because we talked a little bit about this, I can't remember if it was, like, before recording or not, but genetics.
yes.
Giselle had, the NIPT. She also had a comprehensive panel. None of those picked up her cleft. So, I
Does it
so
ever or have you heard of it picking it up?
if you have a syndrome that is directly correlated with cleft, so that would be like a van der Wood,
Okay.
syndrome. There's other syndromes that are associated with cleft. But yeah, so it is a lot it's most of the time random from what they understand. Now, what I've talked to geneticists about is that they just know very little, like, there's, like, so many genes, they just don't know about every gene. So
Yeah, I mean, it would be, like, impossible, and then, like,
yeah,
just the different, like, genetics that are mixing
markers.
from
Mhm.
yeah, there I mean, there's endless amounts. Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm just happy that
Oh,
you shared all of this. My mind's, like, blown. I'm like, "Okay, wait, I can't
I
wait to get to that
know,
20-week anatomy scan, and I will do some cartwheels if my baby's hands are in the way." Um,
for
no,
sure.
I'm like, I'm so happy that Giselle, you know, like, I love how you handled it because I feel like if I were to ever have to experience something, I'm gonna think of you and be like, "Okay, you handled it with grace,
Yeah,
and you didn't overwhelm yourself more than you probably needed to." Um, but I just appreciate what you're doing for the community with, spreading awareness because this is something that I don't it's not talked about unless you're probably getting a diagnosis with your child.
yeah,
Or your niece or nephew or like a friend's child, like you don't know until you know. Um, and I just feel like it's just so important to, like you said, to be prepared, to have something. I don't know. I'm like
yeah,
a knowledge junkie though, so I always love learning and expanding and knowing a little bit about everything.
yeah. That's really hard too because when you are that person, because 'cause I'm the same, that's why I'm again, like, that's why I love podcasting. I feel like I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
But then it does that thing where you're like, "This could happen to me."
Yep. Yep. There is that part. Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching you like, "Oh my god,
I'm
my anatomy
internalizing it.
twin
You
is, like,
see it.
coming."
You can see it. I know. My husband asked my husband, "You're like, I'm an implode." And I was like thinking when you said implode, I'm like, I explode. And he could vouch for that. My parents can vouch. Everyone knows like I'm over dramatic. And luckily, whatever gene that is, my daughter has that as well. And she's only 2.5.
I love that, but I think that everything is gonna be fine prayerfully, and you mentioned something that was funny, it's like, "I'll think of you." No, you will call me, okay?
Yeah, no, I will. I'll be like, get her on the phone, call her on Instagram. I gotta get your number. No, I'm really happy that we met. Like, look at this is
Yeah,
what podcasting does. It allows you to just meet people that you can connect with, laugh with, talk with. I love it.
yeah, me too.
Um,
Thank you so much.
oh my gosh, no, thank you for coming on the podcast and it's been great talking to you and Yeah, I'm excited to spread awareness on the Mom Mode platform for moms of cleft lip and palate children. I think it's really important.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast.